We're talking with Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, let's move on to Nebraska here. Before we get to bowl game or anything like that, obviously, since the last time you talked to us on this show, quite a bit has happened, whether it's transfer portal, coaching changes. Over the last week, what has moved your needle the most?
I think, locking up Holgorsen and then Emmett Johnson coming back, I think are two big developments. I think it's important. I thought Nebraska developed a really good 1-2 punch in the running back room over the last 3 or 4 games, and I think they can keep that rolling. I went into the season skeptical about that room, in part because I wasn't sure the right guys were going to play. And for a time there, the right guy didn't play. He just didn't play. And then at the end of the season, I thought Emmett Johnson got the opportunities that I felt like he probably deserved, and I liked how it looked, and I thought Dante Dell was running better too. I thought he was challenged and responded to that challenge pretty well. And so it was like, this is a pretty good 1-2 punch. This is a room that you want to keep intact. These are good kids, and they run hard and they play hard. And let's keep that together. And then you add the 2 young guys and eyes who might transfer, and Mekhi Nelson, and then you put Jamarian Parker in there, and that's a room that you can win football games with. I think you really can. And then Johnson left for a short time, and then he came back, and so I think that's going to remain intact, which is good. And then Holgorsen coming back, I think, is good. I think he'll develop a skill set and a system that really benefits Dylan Raiola. I think Dylan Raiola can throw the ball all over the field, but he actually enjoys throwing these sort of quick passes. You can have a strong arm and still really enjoy that short passing game. I think of Warren Moon, probably the best short passer of all time. And, he could throw the ball 80 yards, but he also knew how to throw the little 4 or 5 yard in. And I feel like Dylan Raiola is in that class of player. He enjoys the short passing game, the controlled stuff. And, people watched Mahomes last night do a little bit of that. And I think Raiola likes that. And I think Holgorsen will give him that. And so I think going forward, the offense that they can run is going to be good. So I think those are the two most notable things. Losing Terrence Knighton, I think, is tough. I think it was time for Tony White, and I wrote about that. I think they would have liked to have a 3rd year with Tony White, and I like that guy a lot. I think it's okay. Like I think year 3 for Tony White wasn't going to be as easy as year 1 and 2 here. So he's moving on to a new situation. Nebraska's going to have a new coordinator. I think it can be a win-win for everybody.
Sam, with the bowl game and kind of the opponent, how much of this do you think is a potential precursor for how Nebraska feels like we should view them in December, right? Because you heard Coach Rule say the other day, hey, listen, this is busy, it's active, the portal's active, coaching movement is active. What do you think he meant kind of when he said kind of get used to this as some sort of a precursor?
I think if a program is going to have the kind of success that Rule wants to have, they're going to have to get used to juggling 3 things at once: preparing for a big game, knowing some players are going to leave, having coaching churn, and Nebraska has built the kind of size of staff that should accommodate juggling all those things at once. And I think that's probably what he means. Certainly there's going to be some guys who choose not to leave the transfer portal at some of the playoff teams because they want to stay with their teams and through the process, and they don't want to leave right yet because it's fun and they want to be a part of it. But, obviously you're going to have to juggle a lot of things if you're successful going forward. And, that's what he means. December is a chaotic month now. It used to be a quiet month full of bowl preparation and, recruiting visits, but and that wasn't quiet, but it was structured. Now it's just completely chaotic. And I don't think Rule knows exactly which players are going to transfer. Does he know exactly, whether the offers that the players cite back to him are true?
Yeah.
How would he know? How do you? It's a big negotiation now.
So I will tell you one thing: if he knows the people involved, he is not afraid to call. I can tell you that right now. Like this, you're like, hey man, I feel like I'm being leveraged. What's the story here?
For sure, absolutely, yeah. And sometimes that can happen. That can, those can be the case. And
I just wish
you're
so
going
many
to
people.
you're going to lose some players. You're going to lose some players to Group of 5. That's reality.
And that's okay, right? Like,
yeah.
But these runners and there's people like that all over the place. It's just a shame how the predatory behavior has almost no consequences.
Yeah, well, I think there needs to be some structure around it. As I said this, I don't know, somewhere else. It's going to on a podcast, our Pick Six podcast. Eventually, we're just going to get a union, Damon. That's the only. We're going to have a union, and it's going to be collectively bargained, and the framework is going to be decided by,
You said that so serious too, and you called me by my first name. I had to listen.
Yeah. Well,
because he knows you're a big union guy.
He's like, hey, come on, Dave. And I was like, oh, shit.
We in the media won't accept anything else, and some of what is going on is, of course, it's complete chaos. And social media is so much in charge of all this stuff. And we just won't anything short of, a union structure. We're just not going to take, the NCAA's the bad people. They have no good answers. Nobody likes them. Whatever. And so it's going to have to be a union. And then when it's a union, then we'll say, well, there's a union and that'll fix everything. And it won't. But it'll at least give structure that needs to be there, because what we have right now is, not even what professional sports have. Patrick Mahomes can't go to the highest bidder every year. He can't go back and renegotiate his contract every season. I mean, I suppose he could, but the Chiefs don't have to let him go every single year and go somewhere else. The model that people are thinking or imagining in this moment is something closer to an EPL or European soccer model, and that's not at all what college athletics is. So we in the media won't have just basically settled on that the players are aggrieved and in that position of having justice perverted against them until we get a union. And then once that happens, then they'll say, well, now there's a structure. Short of that, I just don't imagine anything being satisfying to the people that cover the sport, even if a union doesn't necessarily advantage the players in ways that they might have been advantaged 3 years ago. Once you put in place a union, you're not going to have freedom of movement. Do people really think the college football teams are going to say, sure, you can go somewhere every year? I mean, come on, that's silly. So, players are going to lose their freedom of movement to some degree, the more structure we get, and people might apparently are okay with that.
That's Sam McKewon from Omaha World-Herald. Sam, appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, take care.